So this is a photo of people, mainly prisoners, standing over a mass grave as it's being dug by the people who liberated this camp. So this camp is Bergen-Belsen. Towards the end of the war, when the Allied forces were closing in on the border, many of the individuals who were being kept in camps close to the border were moved to Bergen-Belsen. So by the time it was liberated, which was in April of 1945, there were over 60,000 people in this camp. And as you can imagine, it was full of disease. Dysentery, typhus, typhoid fever were all horribly common. And we have, I think, a desire as human beings to look at the Holocaust and say, you know, okay, from 1938 to April 1945, was awful, and then it was better because it was all fixed. And the sad truth of the matter is that the suffering and pain that was caused by the Nazis during the Holocaust didn't stop when the camps were liberated, because they had this massive number of people who had been displaced from their homes, of people who had contracted these awful diseases, who were starving. And we very much like to think that when the Allies came to liberate, they were able to save everybody. And unfortunately, as we can see in this photo, there were just too many people to afford each one a proper burial, to afford each one the dignity and respect that we as human beings deserve. And so I think this photo is just a beautiful representation of the horrible things that everyone had to grapple with after the Holocaust. It's also worth noting that Bergen-Belsen was the camp that Anne Frank and her sister Margot were kept at. I think Anne Frank's story is a touchstone for many people and is probably one of the best known stories of the Holocaust. She stayed with her family in what she called the secret annex, which was an attic in Amsterdam behind a building that her father used to work in. In August of 1944, she and her family were discovered, and her sister Margot, who was a few years older than her, and her mother, Edith, were all sent to Auschwitz at first, where they received the infamous Auschwitz tattoo on their wrist. Edith stayed at Auschwitz, where she died in late 1944 and early 1945. Margot and Anne were both sent to Bergen-Belsen, where this photo was taken. They both died in early 1945, and likely were part of a situation like this after Anne's father returned from the war, and he was the only one who survived. Anne's mother, Edith, her sister Margot, and Anne herself all perished in the camps. Her father Otto returned and retrieved her diary, which has now been published and is one of the most valuable resources for Holocaust learning today. But that may be a good connection for people who are looking at this photo.